I wasn't just burned out. I was the burnout. I was the chaos. The guy you texted at midnight because you knew I'd already be up, already making plans, already figuring out which kickback, party, or after party we were hitting. I wasn't the one saying no. I was the one setting it up. The life of the party, the energy, the distraction. People looked at me like I was living free. And I ate it up, dude, for real. But here's the truth, I wasn't free. I was reckless. I was addicted to the noise, smoking every day, drinking, chasing women like it was a sport, and blowing off responsibilities as if they were background noise. And the wildest part, through it all, I was still an AB student. My teachers used to tell me I was sharp, intellectual, far above my peers, and I knew it. I knew I wasn't stupid. That's why I never fully crashed in school. I did just enough to keep my head above water, but grades weren't my priority. The thrill was. And that thrill had thousands of disguises. It was walking into class with no sleep, eyes bloodshot, thinking I looked cool because people were whispering about the night before. It was underage tattoos I thought made me look fearless or unique, but really they just made me look impulsive. It was being out until 3 a.m. on a school night, calling it freedom. It was chasing women I didn't even like just so I could tell myself that I was wanted or that I still got it, you know? It was alcohol fueled nights that ended in fights and hookups and blackouts that felt like they were war stories the next day. Some nights, even having to be relayed to me by others because I had no recollection whatsoever. And woven into all of that was music, not just listening to it, but making it. Music was my world, my identity, my fuel at the time. And the scene I was in, it thrived on chaos. Late nights weren't just common, they were expected. Drinking, smoking, getting reckless. It wasn't a warning sign, it was a rite of passage in a way. In those atmospheres, the more degenerate you were, the more authentic you looked. Creativity and chaos went hand in hand, right? I leaned all the way into it. I thought the chaos gave me substance, stuff to write about, you know? It felt like the lifestyle wasn't just accepted, it was encouraged. And the thing about chaos is it always gets celebrated when you're young, right? People don't say, man, you're spiraling, right? They say, man, you're wild, you're fun, you're living, right? And society sells you this illusion that burning yourself out on the weekends is proof you're alive, that throwing away your money, your energy, your body, that's just a part of being young, man. Relax. Relax. You're young. That's what they say, don't they? You're supposed to be reckless, right? That's the narrative. And I bought it wholesale. Looking back, though, it wasn't rebellion. It wasn't even about having fun. It was about being seen. I wanted to be the guy people called first, the guy with stories, the one always in the middle of chaos, always in control, or at least pretending I was. Because the truth was, I wasn't in control at all. Chaos owned me. It dictated what I cared about, how I spent my time, who I surrounded myself with, and the environments I found myself in. But at the time, I loved it. I thought it meant I was untouchable. I thought chaos was proof that I was different, Proof I wasn't like everyone else, quietly doing their homework and going to bed on time. I thought being the burnout made me free, but it didn't. It made me hollow. And that's the thing about chaos. It always runs out, right? You can't live at full speed forever without eventually having to pay the toll. And when the party ended for me, it didn't end with a hangover, as is so common. It ended with handcuffs. Now, I'd already done the quick stays in county jail, a few nights, weeks, even a couple months, right? But back then, it wasn't shameful. In my little bubble, it was bragging rights. I wore it like a badge of honor, almost like I was earning stripes in some sick fraternity, you know? Jail time wasn't something to be avoided necessarily. I mean, obviously, you don't want to end up there, but it was proof I was really about it, proof I really lived that life. People around me didn't say, damn, bro, you need to slow down, you need to change. They said, respect. It was validation, and I soaked it up. But prison, well, that's a different ball game. That's a whole different world entirely. Jail was reckless fun with consequences, minor ones at that, seemingly at the time. Prison was the moment you realize that the consequences are the point. That first slam of the door behind me, that sound, it's not like in the movies. It's heavier, it's final. You know in your gut you're not walking out in the morning or next week or for a couple of years. That's when it hit me. This wasn't a story to brag about. This was my life and I was throwing it away. I didn't have to sit there long to understand. I wasn't just flirting with disaster. No, I was married to the bitch, right? If I didn't change, chaos wasn't going to make me that guy anymore. It was going to make me a statistic, burned out, locked up, and ultimately forgotten, right? Out of sight, out of mind. And the evidence of that, well, I still wear some of it on my face, literally. Tattoos I got when I thought chaos was freedom, when impulsive choices felt like identity. Back then, I thought the ink made me look cool. Now, it just looks like what it is, proof I wasn't thinking. But even that's fading, literally. I'm 5 sessions deep into the laser removal process and another year, maybe a bit more, and you never even know I had them. And that's kind of symbolic, isn't it? The old me burning off layer by layer. It's not instant, it's not clean, and yeah, it hurts like hell. The pain is easily 10 times that of actually getting a tattoo, but that's the price you pay. But it's progress, a slow undoing of decisions made by a version of me I refuse to let dictate my future. That was the turning point. The moment discipline stopped looking like the enemy and started looking like the only option I had left. Because I realized something brutal but true. If I didn't make a change, I wasn't going to burn out. I was going to burn up in spectacular fashion. Here's the thing. It's not like I didn't know what discipline was. I grew up with it. Raised in an all male military household, discipline wasn't optional. It was the air we breathed. From the time I was born, I was trained to wake up, to make my bed, clean my room, take care of myself, do my homework. You know, that stuff was non negotiable. Discipline wasn't foreign to me, it was ingrained. But Here's where I went wrong. I treated discipline like a chore list, something to get out of the way so I could go chase chaos. I did what was expected, hit the bare minimum, and then used it as a license, as a free pass to unleash the other side of me. As long as the boxes were checked, the grades stayed afloat, and the house wasn't on fire, I essentially gave myself permission to do whatever I wanted. That's when the chaos came in. Because when the rules were satisfied, I thought the rest of my time belonged to indulgence. The smoking, the drinking, the women, the late nights, the impulsive decisions, whatever the case may be. I convinced myself I had balance, structure during the day, and freedom at night. But it wasn't balance. It was a double life. And eventually, the chaos side outweighed everything else. You know, it's funny. People think discipline is the enemy of freedom. But the way I lived, discipline was just the ticket I punched so I could burn myself out guilt free. I wasn't actually disciplined. I was just disciplined enough to hide my chaos. And the shift didn't happen overnight. It came from realizing discipline couldn't just be turned on when I felt like it. It couldn't just be about checking boxes or living up to someone else's expectations. It had to be the way I lived, full time, not part time. Not because someone told me to, but because I chose it for myself. That was the real breakthrough. Understanding that discipline wasn't there to keep me in line for the sake of appearances. It was there to give me freedom from a version of myself that kept sabotaging everything. It wasn't a list anymore, it was a lifestyle. And the breakthrough wasn't loud, it didn't come with fireworks or applause, it came in silence. It came in the small, boring moments where I finally stopped negotiating with myself, where I didn't need chaos to feel alive anymore, where peace wasn't something I ran from, it's something I actually wanted. Because here's the truth, I wasn't just burned out, okay? I was the burnout. I was the chaos, the distraction, the one who thought discipline was a box to check before the night got out of control. And for years, that worked. It did. Until it didn't. Until the late nights turned into jail cells. Until the thrill turned into tattoos on my face I'd spent years removing. Until prison showed me that chaos isn't freedom, it's a sentence. But slowly, piece by piece, I learned to flip the script, to stop treating discipline like a punishment and start treating it like protection. Not something I had to do, but something I chose. Not a cage, but a foundation. And I won't lie, the past is still there. The tattoos are still fading, the memories don't just disappear overnight. But that's kind of the point. They're reminders, reminders of what happens when you let chaos take the driver's seat, reminders of why I had to change in the first place. So, yeah, I went from burnout to breakthrough, from chaos to discipline. And if there's anything my story proves, it's this: you can't outrun who you are, but you can outgrow who you were. The question is, which side are you feeding? The chaos or the discipline? Because one will burn you out and the other will build you up. But that's enough out of me. If you made it this far, you're either bored like myself, or maybe you needed to hear this. Either way, drop a comment, share your story, right? Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. As always, it's your boy, Wicks the Board. Y'all take it easy.